What happens when a federal agency charged with protecting the homeland is accused of breaking the very laws it was created to uphold? Today, in a fiery opening statement, Senator Chris Murphy pulled no punches. He accused the Department of Homeland Security of reckless spending, illegal fund withholding, and a dangerous disregard for both congressional authority and constitutional rights.
With you, I say this with seriousness and respect, but your department is out of control. You are spending like you don't have a budget. You're on the verge of running out of money for the fiscal year. You are illegally refusing to spend funds that have been authorized by this Congress and appropriated by this committee. You are ignoring the immigration laws of this nation, implementing a brand new immigration system that you have invented that has little relation to the statutes that you are required, that you are commanded to follow, as spelled out in your oath of office. You are routinely violating the rights of immigrants who may not be citizens, but whether you like it or not, they have constitutional and statutory rights when they reside in the United States. Your agency acts as if laws don't matter, as if the election gave you some mandate to violate the Constitution and the laws passed by this Congress. It did not give you that mandate. You act as if your disagreement with the law, or even the public's disagreement with the law, is relevant and gives you the ability to create your own law. It does not give you that ability. Let's start with your spending. You are on track to trigger the Anti-Deficiency Act. That means you are going to spend more money than you have been allocated by Congress. This is a rare occurrence, and it is wildly illegal. Your agency will be broke by July, over 2 months before the end of the fiscal year. You may not think that Congress has provided enough money to ICE, but the Constitution and the federal law does not allow you to spend more money than you have been given or to invent money. And this obsession with spending at the border, as the chairwoman mentioned, has left the country unprotected elsewhere. The security threats to the United States are higher, not lower, than when before Trump came to office. To fund the border, you have illegally gutted spending for cybersecurity. As we speak, Russian and Chinese hackers are having a field day attacking our nation. You've withdrawn funds for disaster prevention. Storms are going to kill more people in this country because of your illegal withholding of these funds. Your myopia about the border, fueled by President Trump's prejudice against people who speak a different language, has shattered many of this country's most important defenses. Now let's talk about the impoundments. When Congress appropriates funds for a specific purpose, the administration has no discretion as to whether to spend or not spend that money unless you go through a very specific process with this committee. Let me give you two of many instances of this illegal impoundment. The first is the Shelter and Services Program. Senator Britt may want to zero that account out, but that account is funded, and it was funded in a bipartisan way. You don't like the program. Your policy is to treat migrants badly. I think that's abhorrent, but it doesn't matter that you don't like the program. You cannot cancel spending in this program, and you cannot use the funds as you have to fund other things, like ICE. You have also canceled citizenship and integration grants, which help lawful permanent residents become citizens, helping them take the citizenship test. I know your goal is to try to make life as hard as possible for immigrants, but that goal is not broadly shared by the American public. That's why Congress, in a bipartisan way, for decades, has funded this program to help immigrants in this country become citizens. Now let's talk about why encounters at the southern border are down so much. This is clearly going to be your primary talking point today. You will tell us that it represents a success. But the primary reason why encounters are down is because you are brazenly violating the law every hour of every day. You are refusing to allow people showing up at the southern border to apply for asylum. I acknowledge that you don't believe that people should be able to apply for asylum, but you don't get to choose that. The White House doesn't get to choose that. The law requires you to process people who are showing up at the border and who claim asylum. Why? Because our asylum law is a bipartisan commitment, an effort to correct for our nation's unconscionable decision to deny entry to Jews to this country who were being hunted and killed by the Nazis. Our nation, Republicans and Democrats, decided, wrote it into law, that we would not repeat that horror ever again, and thus we would allow for people who were fleeing terror and torture to come here, arrive at the border, and make a case for asylum. Finally, let's talk about these disappearances. In an autocratic society, people who the regime does not like or people who are protesting the regime, they are just often picked up off the street, spirited away, sometimes to open-ended detention, sometimes they're never seen again. What you are doing, both the individuals who have legal rights to stay here, like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, or students who are just protesting Trump's policies, is immoral. And to follow the theme, it is illegal. You have no right to deport a student visa holder with no due process, simply because they have spoken in a way that offends the president. You can't remove migrants who a court has given humanitarian protection from removal. Now, reports suggest that you are planning to remove immigrants with no due process and send them to prisons in Libya. Libya is in the middle of a civil war. It is subject to a level 4 travel advisory, meaning we tell American citizens never to travel to Libya. We don't have an embassy there because it is not safe for our diplomats. Sending migrants with pending asylum claims into a war zone just because it's cruel is so deeply disturbing. Listen, I understand that my Republican colleagues on this committee don't view the policy the way that I do. My Republican colleagues don't share my level of concern for the way that this administration treats immigrants. That's fine. But what I don't understand is why we don't have consensus in the Senate and on this committee on the decision by this administration to impound the spending that we have decided together to allocate in defense of this nation. We as an appropriations committee, we work interminable hours to write and pass a budget. This budget is really hard to write and pass. And so we make ourselves irrelevant when we allow the administration to ignore what we have decided. And then when we look the other way, when the administration rounds up immigrants who are here illegally and have committed no offenses worthy of detainment, we also do potential irreversible damage to the Constitution. These should not be partisan concerns, destroying the power of Congress, eroding individuals' constitutional rights. This should matter to both parties.
This wasn't just a critique of policy. It was a warning that the department is veering into lawlessness, with consequences that could ripple across national security, immigration, and civil liberties. Senator Murphy began by framing his criticism in stark terms. He argued that DHS is operating as if Congress and the Constitution no longer matter. He highlighted how the department is on track to violate the Anti-Deficiency Act, a law designed to prevent federal agencies from spending money they simply don't have. According to Murphy, by July the department could effectively run out of money, months before the fiscal year ends. But it wasn't just the numbers that troubled him. He accused the administration of siphoning funds away from critical areas, like cybersecurity and disaster prevention, in order to pour them into border enforcement. The result, Murphy said, is a nation left exposed to Russian and Chinese cyber attacks and storms that will claim more lives because preparation efforts have been gutted. Then came the charge of illegal impoundments, where DHS allegedly refuses to spend congressionally allocated funds. Murphy gave concrete examples, such as money earmarked for migrant shelter and services, as well as programs that help lawful residents prepare for citizenship. He noted that while some in the administration may not support these programs, Congress, Republicans, and Democrats together funded them for decades. By not spending the money as directed, Murphy argued, DHS is effectively overriding the will of the people's elected representatives. The senator also challenged what he called the administration's unlawful handling of asylum claims at the southern border. He reminded the committee of the historical roots of U.S. asylum law, which emerged from America's failure to protect Jews fleeing Nazi persecution. Murphy's point was clear. Denying migrants the chance to seek asylum is not just a legal violation. It's a betrayal of the moral commitments that shaped modern immigration law. Perhaps the most disturbing accusations came when Murphy described cases of immigrants and even student visa holders being deported or detained for protesting administration policies. He warned that this mirrors tactics seen in authoritarian regimes, where dissenters are silenced and spirited away. The senator went further, citing reports that migrants with pending asylum cases might be sent to Libya, a war-torn country so dangerous that the U.S. has no embassy there. Murphy closed by appealing for unity. Even if Republicans and Democrats disagree on immigration policy, he argued, they should all agree that Congress's constitutional authority over federal spending must not be ignored. Allowing the administration to pick and choose which programs to fund, he said, risks shredding the balance of power and undermining individual rights. Senator Murphy's remarks were more than partisan posturing. They were a warning about the health of American democracy itself. At the heart of his argument lies a bigger question. If federal agencies can bypass laws and budgets whenever convenient, what does that mean for checks and balances, for constitutional rights, and for the rule of law? These are not abstract debates. They affect national security, immigration, and the lives of millions of people. If you found this breakdown informative, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis on the debates shaping Washington and beyond.